next strategy was making mathematical models. This was one that was definitely new for me. So I kind of was second guessing myself as I was trying to use it, but I think I kind of got the general gist. The first problem I want to talk about is the lunch ratios problem. So I started with noticing and wondering for this one and for the other two also. So my notice, I just kind of reiterated some of the ratios that were in the problem to kind of help organize me. But then I also was able to kind of notice some additional things about them. And I actually ended up adding these to the notice. That's why I have them separated, because I had started trying to solve the problem before I noticed them. And so I think that was kind of one of my takeaways that I would maybe want to reiterate with students is that, right, your noticing and wondering doesn't just have to be at the beginning. You can kind of backtrack and add to those lists to help keep track of your thinking too. So that's where those three came in a little bit later. And so the ratio that I'm looking for is the vegetarian lunches to the vegetarian people. And I have that wonder put in a different color because that's the question that the problem's asking. But then I also had some other wonders. The last one, I feel like that would be something that a student might bring up. So that's kind of why I added it to my wonder. I'm assuming that for this problem, that's not the case, or they would have had to give us some information about that. So this problem was challenging for me. Again, I have my known quantities, which are just my ratios. And then some of the relationships, right? This lunches to people ratio is created from these two, right? Because the vegetarian lunches to regular lunches, well, that total number is the number of lunches. Same thing with the regular people and vegetarian people. That would be our total people. So I ended up kind of latching onto an equivalent ratios approach. And I guess my goal here was the total in the ratio of vegetarian lunches to regular lunches to be the same as the total in somewhere in the lunch column. That didn't really get me too far. I did find the least common multiple of all the values in the ratios, thinking maybe that could help. But again, I'm still ending up with that same problem where the totals are opposite of what I want them to be. Now, just as I'm kind of talking about this, maybe I should have tried some non-whole numbers. Right. I know the number of lunches and people have to be whole numbers, but maybe a non-whole number multiplier would have worked. But I kind of got to a level of frustration with this problem and I wasn't sure where to go from there. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing what everyone else did. The desert harmony problem was the next one I looked at. So again, I started with noticing and wonderings. And then I liked this. It mentioned this in the article about the strategy, listing the known quantities and having like the actual number in parentheses. So you know what the number is, like what it means in the problem and what the actual value is. So I thought about the supply as being a rate. So, and I'm using like general terms because of that little note at the bottom of the problem where it said like about a truck and miles per gallon. So I wanted it to be applicable to that other problem, which is kind of the goal of this strategy. So I said the supply is being used at 1 liter per mile. You could also think about that as a negative number, -1 liters per miles, because we're using it. The starting amount is 10 liters. The total replenish amount is 30, and we don't know the max distance we could travel with that. So I think this is kind of like the building up idea that was in the article. The total water supply would be the starting amount plus the replenish amount, which is 40. And then just thinking about the ratio of liters to miles, well, the equivalent would be 40 to 40. So 40 miles would be the distance that the oasis could be. I'm not sure if I kind of nailed it with the strategy, but that was the solution that I came up with.